How are we feeling today? I'm feeling fantastic. I didn't even wait for Monday to record this. I'm actually going to use high YouTube technology to schedule this for Monday, but I'm recording it on Saturday. Yes, it's amazing what mankind can accomplish. Ooh, this sword that we just found, Sabertooth, very sought after weapon. It's practically a blue, but it's a green. I'll show it to you. This thing here. Because of its attack speed. In fact, I'm pretty sure if I put this... Yeah, I'm not going to use it. Beard check. My girlfriend actually told me recently, she's like, I can't believe this whole time you've been using this beard. You make zero efforts to look good. I'm like, but I made a promise. And it was just funny. What am I supposed to do? I made a promise. Carl Jung, I'm going to show you something just now, just a sec. Since you're my Titan Quest fan, let me show you basically the skills that I've been using. I think this is pretty standard, right? You know, just one point in here, always focusing on these. If you've got any suggestions, tell me. And then for a rune, I put this and this and this, because this thing saves me from getting killed. Pretty much all blues. So anyway, last time we talked about actually pretty intense philosophical episode. I didn't think I was going to get so deep into the subject, but like basically we talked about how, in my opinion, it's not our intelligence or our physical strength that made us the most powerful creatures on the planet and in the known universe. It was something else, something much harder to measure, something more akin to emotions, you know, this sort of emotional core that we have that's so powerful, you know, and I think all of our creativity comes from that, our ability to imagine abstract things that go beyond this physical universe. Like we can imagine a God entity, for example. We can think abstractly, and it's so not logical sometimes. And you know, religion and art and culture and things that might not have utilitarian purpose, things that are completely logical, we sort of create. And I'm getting more deep into this now that I'm talking about it, but I thought about it even more, and I'm like, we can literally think of something that doesn't exist, and if we focus enough time in it, somehow, for some reason, it becomes a reality. Like, for example, in the past, maybe they would have said, it's completely impossible to talk to someone else over a distance without wires. Probably they said, it's just unfathomable, it's completely impossible. And then we had the radio. And there was no logical sort of fact or anything that told us, hey, there is a way to talk over distance without physically being connected. There was nothing telling us that that's true. In fact, there's probably more evidence before the radio that it's impossible. And yet we thought about it for so long, and then we came up with the radio. And the same thing with practically all of science. First you think of something abstract, you're like, maybe something like this exists, and there's no evidence of it, and then eventually you're like, damn, there is. There's literally that exact same thing. That thing that I was imagining is real. And creators can imagine something that doesn't exist, and then they create it, and it was nothing, it was just in their brain or their heart or whatever, and then it became a reality. So I think that creative force, which I don't think is a very logical force, contrary to popular belief, I don't think it's that logical. It might relate, but it's not logical, is what made us, this amazing creature. And we also concluded that, again, it's just my opinion, I'm no scientist, that to some extent this emotional energy, a lot of it is practically pointless if you have a one-person society. You have to love something, You can love yourself, but like you have to love something else to truly feel love. You have to have someone else to love. And we even scraped the idea, not scraped, but like we talked about the idea that love and certain emotions are not just hormonal drives. They're not like just hormonal stimuli, because what hormone is telling you to go, that you want to see someone who's really far away. It's not like you got addicted to their serotonin rush or whatever hormone they say love is. It's not like, oh God, this person gave me so much of that hormone that I'm addicted to it and now I really want to see her even though 10 years have passed or something like that. It's not like that. You do things for love that are completely illogical, and it has nothing to do with hormones. There are some people that sacrifice their own life for someone else, even though it's completely illogical to put your own life at risk, because you're going against your self-preservation instinct. So why did you run into the fire to save someone you don't know? There's got to be more to it. It's not like you're looking for the adrenaline. At least I don't think so. And I don't think it's a sort of instinct to preserve the community, because that preservation of community always comes after self-preservation when it comes to instincts. So that's basically what we talked about. I just wanted to sort of put it into a structure that, like, because when I talked about it yesterday, it sort of got messy. I wasn't in like the best of moods, and my head was all over the place thinking about all kinds of things. But that's basically a summary. And then I applied this knowledge that I've been thinking over for the past few months, and I applied it to the fact that if we touch someone else with these emotions, if we impact someone and we change their lives the way friends and loved ones change your life, then in a way, because let's say if they've impacted me and I've changed as a person thanks to them, and I have these memories of them as well, then in a way, to a certain extent, they're immortal, because they're living through me. It's not as it's not as direct as being immortal physically and literally, but in a way they could never die, because I would never allow them to die, because they're within me, and I just can't. It's impossible. So yeah, that's in case there were doubts about what the hell I was talking about, that's basically it. And we've already spent 8 minutes talking about this. To me, it's such an important subject, because if you can stimulate someone to realize this, because it is quite beautiful. It's not like we started killing off all the animals because we're smarter than them. If anything, I think that part of us doesn't want to kill off all the animals, for example. But point is, it's not our brains. And this same thing that sort of made us the apex predator is also the reason why we advanced as human beings and we're capable of what we're capable of doing. We're sending people to space now. We're expanding as a species, and we're the only ones that can do that for now. I think it's pretty beautiful. So yeah, that's what we talked about last time. Today I'm going to continue with the story. In a way, the last thing I said about the story was we were having sort of the Last Supper. That's how we called it, the Last Supper, before I went back into the hospital. And I was like, should I say goodbye to them? And I was like, nah, fuck it, I'm not going to say goodbye, because of all of these things that we talked about. And well, eventually, like maybe 2 weeks after that, honestly, I'm sort of inventing times by now, because it's sort of all mixed up in my head. But imagine just 2 or 3 weeks after that, I meet up with... This is when coronavirus was becoming a thing. It was no longer funny anymore. You saw people with the masks outside. People were taking pictures of me with the mask, because it was kind of like a meme. It was kind of funny, like, oh yeah, you think coronavirus is going to kill you. Actually, I had to wear it because I was getting chemo and treatment and stuff. And well, eventually, like 2 or 3 months after that, in the middle of the beginning of the coronavirus, I had my last meeting with my then transplant doctor, and she's like, "Well, I invited you to come over," and I went there with my mom because she wanted to be there, just to tell you about the risks and what the next steps are going to be. And she's like, now that we had to change who the donor is going to be, because it's no longer going to be the Israelite, it's going to be your mom. The Israelite was 90% compatible, and so if it would have been him, you wouldn't have had to do practically any chemo and practically none of the radiation treatment. Sorry, I'm super slow. So none of the chemo, none of the radiation treatment. That's because he was 90% compatible. So it's like literally like replacing your bone marrow with something that's practically identical. We'd only have to do some chemo just to be sure, but it wouldn't have been super essential, you know. However, because the Israelite canceled on us, we're going to have to go with your mom, and your mom's 50% compatible, which means we're adding 50% foreign object to your body. So we're going to have to do some chemo and some pretty severe radiation treatment, like practically the toughest radio treatment you can handle, the toughest we can give you, the toughest that exists, because we're going to kill your bone marrow. And I'm like, whoa, I'd never heard of it like that. And she's like, yeah, like there can be no bone marrow left in your body before we give you the spice, the spice melange, before we give you the good stuff, the bone marrow from your mom. Otherwise, there's going to be rejection, and both bone marrows are going to be competing for space. It would have been like a tug of war to the death. Just let me check. Yeah. And so we're going to have to do everything we can to kill your bone marrow. So we're going to give you chemo first. It's going to be pretty light chemo. It's just going to like warm up your body for what's going to happen. And then we're going to give you some strong corticoids, some drip-fed corticoids, which are basically going to prevent you from dying, because we're going to hit you with the strongest radiation ever. And then, like almost immediately, like 3 days, you get the 3 days of chemo, and then we're not even going to wait. We're just going to give you the radiation as soon as possible. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I've heard so much about you, you know, Mr. Radiation. What exactly, what am I going to do? Like, what is it going to be like? And she's like, well, and she pauses. She's like, it's not going to be easy. And I'm like, okay, but like, how is it? And she's like, well, you're not going to feel anything in the moment, but then things are going to get nasty, pretty quick. And then she's like, okay, because of my job as your doctor in this, I'm going to tell you exactly what's going to happen, because you have to be aware of the risks, because you have the right to pull out of this one whenever you want. And I'm like, it's that bad, is it? And she's like, yeah, it's that bad. So what's going to happen is we're going to give you six radiation treatments of, if I remember correctly, 18 gray, which is one of the, like I think 20 gray is the max, and they only do that for localized, sort of like a radiation, but localized, so in a specific point on your body. But since they're going to give me full body radiation, they went down to 18, which is sort of a safe number for someone. Otherwise, it's crazy. Let me just sell these things quickly. Sell this, sell everything. We're gonna keep this. Sell this, sell this. We're gonna keep this too. No, this has to go. Ooh. Yeah. So yeah, we're going to give you 18 gray radiation, and then pretty soon after radiation you're going to have side effects. And she's like, there's two types of side effects that you're going to get. The immediate side effects and the long-term side effects. Things that might happen later, like months after you get the treatment. And she's like, I got to tell you what it is, okay? And I'm like, okay, that's fine. Listen to me, Mr. Farkas. I have to tell you. And I'm like, okay, tell me. No, you don't understand. It's my job. I'm like, God damn it. Okay. Why are doctors like that sometimes? Like, and then she's like, okay, short-term things that are going to happen. Basically, the radiation is going to destroy every quick growing cell in your body. So any sort of tissue that's fast reproducing, this can be skin, this can be hair follicles, all of your mucous membranes, so whether it's your lips or certain areas of your body, the membrane, like the digestive system, practically the entire digestive system is like a mucous membrane. Your throat, your mouth, the anal region is also a mucus area. Your eyes might get some, weird reaction. Your hair is going to fall out. Forget it. It's going to be laser removal, like you've never seen before. And what else? Your nasal cavities might get hit by it too. And it's going to be like a chemo times a billion. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. I think I can take it. And she's like, yeah, you're going to have diarrhea like you've never seen before. You're going to be throwing up like you've never thrown up before. You're not going to eat probably for like a month. So we're going to give you this artificial food, which we're going to put into your bloodstream. It wasn't a tube that they put through my mouth. Because remember, my mouth would be practically, my mouth and my throat and my esophagus would practically be bare. It would be bleeding because it would kill this thing would kill the mucous membrane. They would destroy it. So imagine peeling off the skin of your entire digestive system from the inside. So they have to give food through my veins. And I'm like, okay, I think I can handle it. And she's like, I'm sure you can. And then there are your long-term effects. And this is where it got kind of scary because, I can handle the pain. But then there's like other stuff. She's like, okay, things that might get affected. She's like, your eyesight, you're probably most likely 90% sure you're going to have cataracts because of the radiation. The radiation sort of burns that layer, that thing that produces cataracts. So you're going to have cataracts. Your thyroid is going to get attacked by this radiation, so you might have thyroid problems. So you might gain some weight and you won't be able to sleep. But that can be fixed. Naturally, your hormones are going to get affected because this might have an effect on your reproductive system, the hormonal part of the reproductive system. But that can be fixed with testosterone shots. Your liver might have permanent damage. Your kidneys might shut down. You might suffer internal bleeding from the what's this thing called? From the esophagus and all of this mucous membrane peeling away, so that might cause problems. Your lungs are going to get hit pretty hard. Your heart's never going to be the same. Your bones might get some kind of osteoporosis from the radiation. Practically the worst parts of the Bible. And I remember I was just staring at her, and like she kept talking, like she wouldn't shut up. It's like literally my whole body. Basically, I'm gonna kill myself with this. It's like, okay, Mr. Farkas, you're gonna survive, but you'll be dead, okay? And I wasn't actually worried about the pain. I wasn't worried about the effects. Of course, like any man, I was worried about what did you say about my testicles? What was that? Yeah. Screw the heart and the lungs, but what about my balls? What did you say about that? And she didn't tell me anything. She's like, it might be affected. Like, she didn't tell me any details. For what it's worth, like, I feel fine. but let's not talk too soon, you know. But what was really pissing me off was that this idiot was saying all these things in front of my mom, and I'm like, in my brain I was thinking, could you shut the fuck up for a second? Like, no mother wants to hear this crap. Like, can you just tell me this when I'm in the hospital? Or like, I get it. Like, I have to sign some papers where I have to sign my name saying I'm fully aware of all the problems that could arise from this. I get it. I'm aware of the risks. But damn it, there are other moments where you can tell me. You know, you could literally send me an email with all this stuff, and it's exactly the same. But this woman felt like the best idea ever, the most genius idea she's ever had, was to, no, wait until I have a meeting, and then when my mom is there, because my mom always went to these meetings with this doctor, is to tell all these things in front of my mom. Like, genius. Bravo. Bravo. You truly outdid yourself. And I'm angry because, damn it, like in the moment I was just thinking, no mother has to listen to this crap. Like, I'm already an adult, and I'm the one who has to sign the paper. And I get it, you know, she wants to be aware of everything. I get that. But there are ways of telling her these things, you know? So anyway, she said all that stuff, and she's like, we can't start immediately because there's literally no room in the hospital, and you've been doing really good, so we're pretty sure you know we can wait. And I was like, okay, you know, we'll wait, but it's kind of freaky because the pandemic was becoming a big deal, and I already heard about borders being closed and hospitals getting full. And so I was like, can you guarantee I'm gonna have a place? And she's like, yeah. She's like, you're gonna have a place, don't worry. But then she left. You know, this meeting was over, and I was like, she's gone. Like, literally, she wasn't replying any of my emails. I think she had turned on that cold side of herself, like, you know, that cold side that doctors have to survive, where if you know, it's not part of my job anymore, so this patient isn't my patient, so I'm retiring from feeling anything towards this person. I'm gonna stop caring. Fair enough. So she wasn't replying, and then luckily the hospital contacted me with the new doctor, who's a genius, and he's like, come in for another meeting, and he's like, well, we don't have room for you, so you know we can't put you in. But what we can do is start doing all the tests. I mean, we can give you a list of doctors to talk to, and you're gonna have to go and like test your entire body, and every specialist doctor has to give their okay, saying you're ready for this treatment. So I'm gonna have to go to a psychologist. I'm gonna have to go to a cardiologist, respiratory doctor, pneumologist, I believe. I'm gonna have to meet endocrinologist, I believe that's the name. I'm gonna have to. What the hell? Okay. I'm gonna have to, you know, basically every doctor you can imagine. I'm gonna have to get an okay from them. That's all. Thing is, because of this whole pandemic thing, some doctors were disappearing or being relocated, and there was no, like, I couldn't get a meeting with any of them. So these tests that were maybe 10 tests that you could do in maybe a week, it was almost 3 weeks for me. And in that time they had already got me a place to stay, and they're like, dude, we need those affirmatives as soon as possible. So I sort of asked the doctor to pull some strings. And in fact, some of the doctors, the specialists, there were no specialists left in the entire hospital. And so the doctor was like, listen, okay, I'll check your teeth. Okay, open your mouth. Okay, your teeth look perfectly fine. Okay, that's it. And the odontologist or tooth doctor or whatever they're called, it's confirmed everything's fine. But I mean, thank God he could do that, and he had the authority to do that. So everything's fine. We can put you into the hospital. And they got me a bed. And before they put me into the hospital for the last time for the chemo and then the radiation treatment, before we could do that, we met up again with the doctor, and he's like, and this was when the pandemic had started and they were starting to quarantine certain countries. He's like, listen, I've got some good news and some bad news. And I'm like, damn it, what is it? And he's like, okay, so this is the thing. Because of the quarantine, we're going to have to shut down this transplant program completely. Like within a month or two, we're done. Like there's no more transplanting. I'm like, are you crazy? Like, you have to tell me this now? And he's like, no, let me finish. What's happening is that people around the world that are donating, you have to literally physically send, because they extract the bone marrow in situ, in wherever the donor is. They don't send the donor all the way to, let's say, Argentina. If they're in Israel, for example, they don't send the donor. They have to just extract it there, and then they send the bone marrow all the way to Argentina, for example, to get to the person who needs it, like me, for example. So the problem is that because of the pandemic, they stopped sending bone marrow from one country to the other. And I'm like, oh my God, like I had heard about so many patients already in the hospital who are waiting for their donation for, the bone marrow. And I'm like, holy crap, you've got to be kidding me. And he's like, yeah, so since your donor is your mom and she's literally sitting next to you, we're willing to extend the time that we're going to treat you by however much we need. We're one of the lucky ones. So in a way, the bad news was it's just sad news that we're going to have to stop doing this. But you personally, you're not going to be affected by this because your donor is your mom. And we've already, your mom is already getting her shots. We can already start doing the donation, and pretty soon we can do the extraction and things like that. Sorry, she wasn't doing the shots yet. We were getting the shots for her. So, you're one of the lucky ones, but after you, I'm going to meet someone, and I'm going to have to tell this patient that I'm sorry, but we're not going to be able to do your transplant. And when he said that, I saw him crack. Like, no matter how senior of a doctor he was, that guy, I felt like he lost 10 years of his life just saying that statement. And so sometimes I tell you guys, I'm one of the lucky guys. I got out of it. I can't believe how lucky I am. You're going to soon see just how lucky I really am in this entire thing. And this really is the extent of my luck. Ooh, crap. Because if the Israeli had given me his bone marrow, I would be one of those guys that would be stuck with no options but to wait out this entire pandemic, which is not ending, by the way, because everyone thought it was going to be 3 months max. It's not. Biggest joke ever. This pandemic is probably going to last years. So I could have been one of those guys, but I wasn't. So the Israeli, by choosing, by whether, whatever his reason was, maybe he was being a coward, maybe not, his choice not to go through with this saved my life. How crazy is that? Because then my mom became the main donor. We started doing everything and spending everything on her. And then thanks to that, I could get my treatment, and they gave me everything. And I'll explain what happened with the treatment later, but eventually this would save my life. So there has to be, whether you believe in purpose, destiny, sometimes I get these things happening to me and I'm like, what the hell? So yeah, that's today's episode. I hope you like it. I might release it today or on Monday, depending on how I feel. So I love you guys. See you in the next episode. Bye.